Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Pixel Pushers. I'm your host, Deepak. Imagine a world where simple gestures brings objects to life and grow around you. Today we explore that fascinating world and artistic expression in digital spaces with our friend Grant Hinkson, who has a great new VR game that he wants to show us, and we'll explore his journey and his development path making this game. Grant, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about Connectome and just chat about this space with you guys.
Awesome. And I'm not, of course, doing this alone, so I have my fabulous co-host, Dilmer. Why don't you give yourself an intro?
Absolutely. Hey guys, I'm Dilmer. Really excited to be here and share this with Grant. Grant is a pretty good friend in the XR industry. We met a while ago when he was building his game. So just seeing where he took his game, which was an idea, and then bring it into the platform, it's really fulfilling. So we're super excited to have him here with us to share his experience. And the goal is to teach you guys, to help you also, figure out some of the issues that come when you're developing a game. So, Grant, welcome, my friend. Excited
Thank
to
you so
have you
much.
here.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. So, Grant, why don't you walk us through basically your journey, like how
Yeah.
you started, why XR, and then we can dive into some of
Sure.
those details.
Yeah, I have a long history in tech. So I've been building software for a long time, but I'm new to building games. I'm not new to artistic expression or new to music or new to creativity or creative expression, but building something self-contained in XR is new to me. I'm in Seattle. I moved to Seattle to join Microsoft when they were launching the Windows Phone, and I worked on the Zune desktop app. And I helped make the Zune desktop app look beautiful to support the launch of that phone. And then I went on to Deepak, you want to say something?
No, I love the Zune. It was like, I know people
Sure,
didn't, but
yeah.
there was like some cool things about it.
Funny enough,
Thanks.
my wife also has one of those, and I kept it in a drawer pretty safe, just in case
Sure.
I want to use it in the future.
Yeah, just in case everything goes down and you still need music.
Yep.
Um, I was working on the UI layer, and like that was my superpower, and still is my superpower, is really caring about details and making things look the way designers wanted them to look. And so I ultimately led a team of people who did that, and we launched the Xbox Music and video apps that launched with Windows 8, and then the Xbox One console, that was a shared code base. And then I went from there to Amazon Devices and led a prototyping team. And I was part of the centralized design team there called DDG. And we launched the first Echo Show. So for those of you who don't know, that was the first, hitting mute over here, Alexa device with a screen. And it now seems so obvious, but at the time it was like, forging a new way. And then a new class of devices arose around that. But my team would build software and hardware prototypes to support design ideation, user research, executive storytelling, like all of that. So through that time there, I think I built a really strong point of view on prototyping. And, I've told people that I build with a prototyper's mindset, which is bring something to life quickly, express the idea, and then move on. So it's always about iteration for me. It's like, oh, this is just an iteration. I can keep moving, keep evolving the idea. So that's sort of the background that leads me up to really about 18 months ago, and this desire to create something for myself that was a personal expression. It became such a strong call that I had to make major life changes and leave my stable career there behind and jump into the void of the unknown and start creating. And that's sort of what kickstarted what ultimately became Connectome. At the very beginning, I didn't even know what it was. I just knew the feeling, one, that I wanted to have when creating, and two, a feeling that I wanted to evoke when people were in that space. So I'll stop there.
No, that's fantastic, because I'd love to know I'll ask you a little bit of a curveball. Like, what do you see as the difference going from more working on non-games and then coming to this space.
Yeah.
Because like what I love it, like Dilmer knows I'm a newbie to MR VR. So like one, I want to know like what is the difference to you? Because I'm
Sure.
mostly a mobile console gamer. So
Right.
I'm now getting into this world. So I love from your
Yeah.
perspective as well.
Yeah. I mean, what I love about building for these headsets is, so Connectome, to be clear, is fully immersive right now, and I have ideas of different expressions of some of this interaction that could be mixed reality. But when you're building something that's immersive, you are like a world builder, so you can completely envelop somebody in an environment, which means like a really good amusement park ride, you're defining the environment, the sound, the color, the path, the ride that they're on. When you're designing desktop software, like you're lucky if somebody is focused on what you're creating. But it's a world of distractions. I'm surrounded by screens in this room. Like my kids love to come in and start counting the number of screens. I'm like, just stop. I'm building for these. This is not screen time, okay? This is build time. It's different when you're building in a game environment too. Like I'm in Unity. I go way back to the Flash days, and so like I have a deep love for that environment where it's code, it's design, it's music, it's animation, and it's all in this central tool. And you just like get really good in this space, and you get into a flow, and you can build and move quickly in that environment. When you're doing traditional desktop development, it's not so integrated. I'm doing design in one tool, I'm slicing, I'm exporting, I'm anticipating whether this effect or this animation that I've drawn is going to translate well to the UI layer platform that I'm building on. It's just all of these constraints that you're thinking of if you're truly thinking end to end.
Man, that's beautiful. The thing that I get excited about your game is, well, first, it's the minimalistic style that you put into the game. And
Right.
I mean, you're wearing black, I wear black, like
Sure.
like I love that style. But I'm wondering, was that what was the decision of making it minimalistic versus making, a more detail type game
Yeah.
with colors?
Sure.
What inspired you to build that?
I think there's really two answers to this question. One, this is a personal aesthetic that I've always appreciated, and when I do design work on my own, it is typically really minimalistic in style. Two, I was creating art myself. Before I decided to just leave and build a game and immersive art, I was playing a lot with simple geometries. I have this thing I call Project Hydra, which really starts with a 7x7 point grid, Bezier curves connected from every single point to one other focal node at a time. And then those are animated. And then over time, it moves from node to node to node. But it's still done in 2D. I actually implemented it in Unity. So it's in 3D. Those curves are moving in 3D space, but you can't tell because of the rendering. So that's where I started, anchored in 2D expression of idea. But two, I knew that I was going to do this on my own. I wasn't bringing in a team of designers or building up libraries of skinned assets. That makes creating something a lot more complicated. So leaning into my minimalistic design, which is personal and a true expression of self, also allowed me to move more quickly and create some constraints that wouldn't complicate building. So I knew that if I could find the right library, that I could express my ideas in this 2D world, I can move a lot faster. So it's about velocity as well as personal expression.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because that is similar to how I approach everything, and because of time, because the more detailed, the more things that you bring into Unity.
Yeah.
If you have to get a 3D modeler, if you want to get custom animations and then menus, and then it becomes very complicated. Especially, it sounds like you build it on your own.
Yeah.
You had limited resources. In my case, I was working solo as well. So it was a great way to, like you said, move faster and prototype, but it's still focusing on, like, when you don't have too many colors and too many things, for me, it's like I can focus on specific
Sure.
areas when I'm building,
Yeah.
and that makes the process a lot faster.
Yeah, there are always so many ideas floating at any one moment of time. And it's like my job, our job to get rid of the noise so you can focus and be productive in a given moment, especially as someone who's doing it on their own. You have to remove those off. If I wanted to spend, I could easily spend way too much time tweaking a 3D model, and then I would lose a week. And I'd get to the end of the week and say, "What'd you do?" "Oh, I made this awesome model. Oh man, I didn't move this forward at all."
And I guess that depends on your goals, right? Like when you're trying to work on a project on a game, games are hard. Games take a lot of time.
Yeah,
So, identifying those areas that are going to save you more time. So if you say, well, I want to build a game, but I want to release it in a year.
correct.
So it sounds like you have done that, which is great, because then you know your time constraints, and if you have to get an animator, a 3D modeler, then there's that conversation going back and forth, which it's not bad. It's
Sure.
great. It depends on the project, but in your case, it allows you to move faster and then focus on the creation process,
I
which
think
is
that's
awesome.
right. There are some rooms in this game that are shaded. It's not completely flat style. And I did create 3D models in Blender and texture them and bring them over. And those, they took a while. Like there are certain things that I had to go back in and edit, and it did slow me down. But I think it was worth that investment. So every time I'm spending time learning something, I'm seeing it's this inner dialogue going, "I'm wasting time, I'm wasting time, I'm wasting time." No, you're close, and you'll move faster. It's just this constant back and forth in my head.
I like this idea of you minimalistic design, art, right? So like I know art. Well, I don't know art. Like I can express art in the 2D space, right? Like a game like Journey on PlayStation and stuff like that, right? But I'd love for you to explain from your world the concept of like art, digital expression
Hmm.
in sort of this VR space, because I don't think a lot of people do connect those dots.
Right. I mean, it's like the best canvas to play on. It's so much fun because, like, what I tell people is here I get to play with scale in a level you can't in the physical world. I mean, maybe a few projects, who get to build towers. But in a headset, I can go from a constrained hallway that feels like, oh, this is really small, what's happening in here, and immediately go through a door, and you're in this vast cavern. So you're like playing with the mind sense of scale. Or I can create something like that Project Hydra that I mentioned. I have a version of it in VR that's like 10 or 12 stories tall. So I step in and it's just like towering over me. And so like there's something in us that responds to things that are overwhelmingly large, and it's like a visceral thing. And yeah, so as a canvas, I think it's awesome. Like there is the complexity of game design, and this is true on any platform, and like or any tool set for that matter. Like, am I good with this paintbrush? Do I understand my medium? So like the more time I spend in these tools, the more rapidly I can express the ideas that I have. And that's kind of a different conversation. Maybe it's like thinking about tool set and vision and expression. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, I love why I love these questions is they're sort of nebulous and you get sort of people's like bent on them.
Yeah,
But if I'm hearing you correctly, like it does create this like larger than life space that you wouldn't get to experience in other platforms, and it becomes
sure.
about design. Because
Yeah.
I tell Dilmer often, people think I have to explain tech to people, like we're developer advocates or as developer relations on other
Right.
platforms. I mostly have to explain design, like what is
Yeah.
good mobile
Sure.
design look like for 9 to 12, 13 to 18. What
Right.
is good console like? So like
Yeah,
I
it makes sense
completely
because everybody can make a button click, but not everybody can
exactly.
make it feel polished or put it in the right place or have the right word on it for that matter.
Because you can get like I like your word before, like get distracted, right?
Yeah.
Like improper design, which sounds really harsh to say, is like the person's going to a place you didn't attend, and magic can still happen. That's the beauty of
For
entertainment.
sure. Yeah.
But a great designer knows where the eyeball is going and is guiding that person, and you have to do it on a.
So I think this is a really important point and something that I experience, especially in this minimalist game. There's several things here. In this minimalist environment, I was originally playing with completely flat colors. Even though they're rendered in 3D, there was no sense of depth. So ultimately, I ended up adding some gradients to the environment. They're very subtle, but it actually makes it feel a little more warm. And I didn't do this in every room, but it also just at a subconscious level gives you a sense of depth. So you can understand relationally where these points are in a better way. But two, this open world, because I really want people to feel like they're exploring in a space, but it's still a guided journey. So when you complete one object, a point appears over here or over here. And I started by using spatial audio. So you hear a little beep, 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 and you might turn. But if it's too far away, this is where you start playing with the limitations of the technology or sound or environmental constraints. Like, somebody's audio isn't loud enough, or there's something in the background and they're not fully immersed. So they didn't recognize that it came from over there. They just heard a sound. So they start looking around. And I still haven't completely solved this. I have some ideas like, do you want to pop up a bunch of arrows and say, look over here, look over here? Oh man, that feels broken. I failed. So it's like this tension between creating an environment where somebody is comfortable to not feel like they have to find the next thing immediately, and they allow themselves to look around, versus now I've crossed into this threshold of I'm frustrated. And knowing the timing between the joy of discovery and frustration of not finding is a real challenge.
Because you want to be in that flow state where it's not too difficult. Because I find that the challenge is like some people want the Assassin's Creed where everything is an icon.
Right.
But some people are yearning for that. Let it be intuitive enough that I can explore, deduct,
yes,
and go down that path, because time is limited. That's the thing we always forget.
That's right. Yeah, I think there's something interesting because I've observed people play, and I'm sure you guys have done this too. Like if you're in a user research study and you're watching somebody, and I think we behave differently when we know we're being watched. So somebody internally is projecting, they expect me to figure this thing out quickly. Therefore, I will move quickly. And that's success to them. Therefore, they think I'm good at what I'm doing. And as an observer, I really want the person to pace themselves slowly, experience these moments in the game, and then come out on the other side understanding whether they did follow the flow that I expected, or understand whether the pacing was delightful to them or frustrating.
When I tried your game, Grant, you were watching me and I was trying to explore, so I failed that, and I wanted to make sure that I was following the flow exactly how you said.
Right.
But as a developer, and Unity developer, I was thinking, this is like, how do you design a game like this that it's just not? It just didn't feel like a game where you have one level and then you build another level. It just feel more random or more dynamic. Like right. I'm curious, how do you approach the level design? Like, how do you even structure that in Unity? Is it procedural? Is it by hand? And yeah, I would love to learn how that process is to create a new level.
Okay. Today, it is still fairly manual. And like these rooms, I think of them as almost being sculpted. And like I have a notebook here. I could go back and flip through where I was just sketching what these rooms would be. And one of them was stars in the sky above me. The other, I think you experienced this dome that opens, that cracks open. So I remember sketching that and then making it. Um, so I start with sketches, and in my mind, I'm trying to draw at scale because I really wanted to play with scale a lot. You've heard me say that a few times now in this conversation. But to answer your technical question, um, often one flow that I have, I start in Blender and I create a 3D mesh. And because of the way I do these geometries, a lot of these shapes will start and they'll look kind of like distorted cubes or rectangles. And in some of the rooms, when you complete those shapes, they then morph into something else. So I created a custom workflow where I start in in Blender, and I create these meshes, and then I export to a JSON format. So I have a custom script where I export into a format that I can then massage. And then I use in Unity, I'm using the Shapes library by Freya, and it's an awesome library. Along the way, I ended up, realizing that I'm rendering 3D meshes using this 2D/3D Shapes library. So I start in Blender, I export this mesh data, I move into Unity, and I redraw it using the Shapes library. But when I do that, I'm also using the Interaction SDK by Meta. And so for each of the vertices of these points, I'm then attaching prefabs that have distance hand grab interactables on them. So what that allows me to do is have interactivity for every single vertex within the mesh. And when you complete a mesh, sometimes the faces draw and then they animate away. So I had to figure out, now I need to know what adjacent faces are. How am I going to do that? Because this is not my sweet spot, really. I just want to express this idea. This is where you go, somebody's figured this out already. Blender does this. Blender knows. So when I export, I can export a collection of faces as well. So I know adjacency. I know points that are connected to other points. I didn't have to figure that out. I just export in an object model that I can then use. Because if you want to grab one point, you want the lines that are connected to it going to the other vertices to move together with it. That's kind of a rabbit hole. I could talk about this for a while. But
I love the technicalities of it. Especially, I'm curious, why do you use JSON? What does JSON do for you? Does that give you information about the mesh that you created in Blender and all the vertices and all these nodes that are close to it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody who would say, well, why didn't you just load the mesh? Because, Unity has libraries that deal with this. It's because I was moving fast. I was using the prototyper's mindset, right? Where this is what I know today, and this is what I want to achieve today. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of taking the next week or 2 weeks to figure out somebody else's library and how to do it. And it allowed me to stay in tools that were familiar and that I could move in quickly. Also in JSON, it means that I can write simple Node.js utilities to do massaging, which came in really handy later when I wanted to create multiple states of these meshes and then animate between them. So I could create a mesh that has a fixed number of points that are known in Blender, export a snapshot, and then I could move those points and create a different shape, take another snapshot. And then in the library that I've been creating myself on top of shapes, I can animate across those two states. So I've effectively created, point-based animation on meshes that I completely understand. So that's how I ended up at this point.
How many states do you have, per object?
Today it's really 2, but okay. I can also, when you're grabbing a line and dragging it, you can do intermediate animation. So there is a room where you create this giant grid. It's a plane, and then it moves down to the floor. And then as you drag a line, it's almost like a topographical map that rises, so mountains rise from it. So you can do really cool things with just 2 snapshots and then animate in between those values.
Grant, we all know that a couple of years ago, AI wasn't as robust as it is right now. And the thought of me coding and using AI, I felt like I was cheating. Even using even sometimes going and Googling things and copying and pasting,
Right.
I would always try to rewrite it so that I would understand it.
Yeah.
So curious, how much AI do you use? What tools do you recommend people to check out? Maybe there are
Yeah.
things that you learned that work best so that people can actually create a game and release it faster because of ways that you found that work
Yeah.
better?
I mean, at the time, I use ChatGPT a lot. And if you look at where we are right now, and I tell somebody, oh, I'm using ChatGPT and I'm copying and pasting across, people are like, what? Why are you copying and pasting? You could just use Cursor to just do everything for you. It's so archaic. I mean, and that's like less than a year, right, of time has passed. These tools are evolving so quickly. If I chased the very latest best, I would always be distracted trying to learn a new tool set. So in that period of time when I was learning, and so I think this is also different. What do you want to take away from your interaction with these tools? I wanted to learn. I didn't want to press a button and have it generate an entire project that I didn't understand, because that would not serve me well. I needed to be able to learn the foundations of this technology so that I understand it, because I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. Let me just back up.
No, you're great. I love your thinking process.
I use ChatGPT significantly, and I use other tools. I have LM Studio, so I could play with different models that are available, just as, kind of pit different models against each other, see which one would give me better results within the problem space that I'm in. But I would say it would be impossible for me to have shipped in the period of time that I did without these tools. It accelerated my capacity to learn. It allowed me to do the things that I didn't want to do, figure out all of this vertex and matrixy math and that I didn't understand. And, that's what I've told people when I speak. Like, these tools allow you to learn faster and express your ideas more rapidly. And fortunately, I have domain level expertise, so I know how to ask questions in the right way. So I can ask very specific questions and then get meaningful results. Without that domain knowledge, I think it would have taken me a lot longer.
No, that was a great answer. I think that there's so much that you say that I relate to, especially using all of these tools and all the distractions that you can get by actually trying to learn it, which is one of the reasons why I haven't used Cursor.
Right.
And I like that I have full control, but because I was an engineer for so long, it's a lot easier for me to ask the right questions. So
Exactly.
I think using Cursor, there's nothing wrong. There's people that do it well, and it's great, and it works for them. But I agree with you. Like, I want to understand, like, if I ask for a snippet of code and maybe there's something specific, I want to know how to calculate, the vertices, the distances, doing some complex math that I want to copy, and I want to have full control and know where I'm going to put it so that I know the entire structure of the project.
People will ask, will this game be able to be generated? And the answer is maybe at some point that, I could come up with the exact incantations to have this game expressed the way I did, but not today. It really required hand-holding, and these tools still generate things that don't work with confidence. They are so excited to tell you that they have the answer, and they don't, and it breaks, and they don't know why, because the Stack Overflow thread that they followed, that in the early days, you could just see, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, I'm sorry, try this. And it really felt like just reading this thread of Stack Overflow. And that was my mental model at the time. It's like, yeah, I know what's happening here. You're just taking me down somebody else's rabbit hole, and I'm reliving their rabbit hole trying to get to the right answer.
Well, Grant, we'd like to actually check out the game. So
Sure.
How about we get set up and transition to playing the game and asking more questions about your journey in the game?
That sounds great. This is the first room that you enter. And when you enter the game, you're really in this black void. A logo appears, and then some text: now, scan, and pinch. So the idea here is that you're being introduced to the core interaction patterns of the game, which are really just two: scanning the space with your hands, pinching to reveal a vertex of this object.
It's beautiful.
And then we talked about this earlier. The faces of the geometry are then filled in and animate away.
So what is the visual helpers? Are those all the different lines within the game? All the
Yeah, so these visual helpers, what I found early on, especially with people who are not used to hand tracking, they didn't know how to hold their hand. So somebody might be almost wanting to point with their finger, but you see what's happening. The way the hand is scanning the environment is really coming out from between the thumb and the forefinger. So this is intended to teach you from the very beginning how you need to orient your hands so that you'll be successful. So here, the next one, pinch plus drag plus release. So I pinch and drag. This is like dragging a progress bar. And then you drag it to this point. And as you get close enough, it then snaps and pulls into view and then fades out.
knowing the hand tracking is really accurate, but your game really shows how the small movements of my hand cast the ray to bend
Yes.
in a way that it feels like just so natural. It's so clean.
Well, thank you. I think building with these tools, the very beginning was really just trying to understand what is possible. Can I do this with the tools that exist? So this third step, it's more lines, but if you notice, what I'm intending to do here is teach you that you're playing with depth. Because in this 2D environment,
Interesting.
things can appear flat. So if you're just looking at this on the screen, you might think that these 2 points are on the same plane, but actually this point is in the foreground.
Yeah.
So
I can see that. Yeah, moving it in, moving it back out.
right, see, push forward, pull back. So this was something that I added later in the process after observing people failing because they didn't realize that they had to play with depth. So now we turn those indicators off. The intention is not for those to be on the entire time, really just be on while you're learning how to orient your hands. And now I want to teach you that you can use both hands at the same time. And as I'm scanning, you can see the interactors picking up. So then you just start pinching. This is an element of gameplay that at first feels magical, and then I've had some people say, I didn't feel like I had as much agency doing this as I wanted. And I think it really depends on the person because, and your mindset in the moment. It can feel just kind of therapeutic as you're clicking and revealing. What I'm doing right now is a core aspect of this game, and that is creating doors. And this is just a simple rectangle. But then this door opens. And this is really the journey of Connectome moving from room to room. I just reach and I click, and then I transition into this new space. Dilmer, when you played this the first time, I said, "Where were you?" And you said, I'm kind of like in heaven, just surrounded by white. Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, I have that door now. I see heaven again.
I think I'm trying to decide what I want to show first. I think really there are two distinct forms of gameplay. This next room that we're going to move into uses the pinch to reveal quite a bit to build its environment. And then you go down a separate pathway that ultimately results in a combination of connect the dots and pinch to reveal. So I'm going to step in here and we'll just show a couple of these interactions. And then I'll move into the pink room. But I do want to get back to the music. So, I have played the piano since I was in first grade. And I think I've always written music. I would just like sit down and write music. But to create music for this game, I invested in native instruments. I have this instrument by a company called Slate & Ash called Cycles that really is so much fun to play with because you can create these really textural sounds. and I would experiment with their starting sounds and then tweak those to my needs. And then I think most of the music I would do late at night when the house was quiet. I would just be sitting and play and experiment and see where it would lead. And again, with that prototyper's mindset, just sort of quickly creating snapshots or snippets of textures that I could then use. And ultimately, the entire flow and all of the music that you hear, I created. And I had a lot of fun experimenting with sound design, creating complementary sparkle sounds that play when these objects reveal themselves. So I showed you the blue room. This is the pink room. Really, I call it the Pink Atrium. So the way I describe these are loops. If you enter into the white atrium that we just came from, there's a pink door, a blue door, a yellow door, and the black door behind you that you just emerged from. And then you enter the pink atrium, blue atrium, yellow atrium, and that then goes on what I call the loop. So I'm now in the pink atrium, and if I continue to follow this path, I would go through the pink loop.
I'm still in the blue room, so I'm catching up to you.
Okay.
Let's see.
Grant,
Keep going. I'll catch up.
Grant, tell me, what was the biggest challenge you found with new players as they're trying to experience this game?
I think it depends on the player and their experience with the tool set. I would observe challenges really just with the core gestures. How do I hold my hand? How do I pinch? This isn't perfect. See, I've trained myself to know how to scan and release pretty quickly. So it makes it look just like it works every single time. Oh, am I missing a line? I am. Okay, watch this. As I connect this final one, the lines swell, indicating that you've completed it. And that was just like a really subtle visual affordance that I came to after watching someone, and they weren't sure whether they had completed it or not. So it's like this little reward that you get when you finish. But yeah, I think those are the core challenges, is just getting the mechanics down. And once you've moved through a couple of rooms, then you get the hang of it, and you understand the nuance of how the hand tracking is working.
Yeah, because I'm used to more just motion controls, and it's intuitive once you realize it. But the pinch was new to me, so I was like struggling in the beginning to understand, like, oh, pinch is a move.
Right. Yeah. See, I think of pinch really like, left mouse down. You attach and you drag. And I'm going to complete this room, and then maybe I'll take the headset off and watch Dilmer play. But I think there's something interesting in this room that came after observing people play as well. And see, the thing is, I don't want it to feel like work. And if you have too much repetitive behavior over time, it can feel that way. Now, sometimes people just feel really rewarded by doing the same thing over and over. So I've just created this ring around me in the ceiling, and then the points come back in with one in the middle. And I can drag, and I'm really creating a cone here. So if I go from the middle out, I get a single line. But if I grab a point in the distance and pull, it controls multiple lines at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And it does a couple of things. One, it feels really rewarding because you're like, oh, wow, I'm controlling a lot of things at once. The other thing is that it moves this along a little bit faster. So instead of going from tedium and having to create all of these lines, it makes you feel even more powerful. Somebody asked me, like, what's the story? Is there some sort of deeper story here? I think there is, but I just kind of want you to make it up on your own. It's like, I played Riven a lot. I loved that game, and it was the
sequel to Myst.
The sequel to Myst, and you really just arrive at this place and you don't know what's going on, but you you intuit and believe that there is a story there.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay in a game like this that really is also the intersection of art and design to leave it open and allow somebody to just try to fill in the gaps on their own. Like, what is the story of this place? Is there a story here?
People love storytelling. That's, I think, I wish more designers took advantage of, is as much as you want to create a story, they want to create their own story in their head.
Yeah.
And it can be even more magical than a traditional designer can even provide.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another example of a room that I did create this mesh in Blender, the environment itself, and textured it. And I wanted it to feel like light was glowing from the bottom of this chamber.
All right. Well, that was pretty fun. And thank you so much, Grant. It was such a journey to listen to your experience in building these amazing minimalistic games. So I'm sure you inspire a lot of people through your talk. And I can't wait to see and talk to you in the future. We may have another one where we break down how you built the levels and more technical. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh man, it's been my pleasure. Like anytime you get to talk about something that you've made and you're proud of, it's so rewarding. So thanks.
No, thank you so much. And then guys, if you can subscribe and hit that notification bell below, make sure that you do that, because that's going to help us in bringing you a lot more guests like Grant. And thank you so much, guys, and make sure that you subscribe. I think I said that twice.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.